Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the reorganizational meeting of the Locust Valley Central School District. My name is Susan Hammerschmidt, and as the district clerk, I am calling the meeting to order at 6:01. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will start this meeting by reading a letter from a board member dated July 14th, 2020. Please let this letter serve as my resignation from the Locust Valley Board of Education, effective immediately, signed Jennifer Maselli. I will now administer the oath of office in public to our new superintendent, Dr. Kenneth E. Graham. Stay right there. Yep. I think I'm going to stay right here. Dr. Kenneth E. Graham, Superintendent of Schools, this is your oath of office. The term of office commencing July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2024. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of New York.
And the Constitution of the State of New York.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties.
As the Superintendent of the Locust Valley Central School District.
As the Superintendent of the Locust Valley Central School District.
Town of Oyster Bay.
Town of Oyster Bay.
Nassau County, New York.
Nassau County, New York.
According to the best of my ability.
According to the best of my ability.
Congratulations and welcome.
Yeah, Susan.
Hi.
Yeah.
Now I will administer the oaths of office to our board members that were elected. John Del Tato was reelected, Sean Steele was also reelected, and our new board member, Lauren Themis. Actually, I'm going to do John Del Tato first. Would you like to stand, please? This is for John Del Tato, board member of the Locust Valley Central School District. The term of office commencing July 1st, 2020 for a 3-year term. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of New York.
And the Constitution of the State of New York.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties.
Of a member of the Board of Education.
Of a member of the Board of Education.
Locust Valley Central School District.
Locust Valley Central School District.
Town of Oyster Bay.
Town of Oyster Bay.
Nassau County, New York.
Nassau County, New York.
According to the best of my ability.
According to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Congratulations, John. Now I'll ask board member Sean Steele to stand. This is for Sean C. Steele, board member of the Locust Valley Central School District. Term of office, 3-year term commencing July 1st, 2020. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of New York.
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties.
of a member of the Board of Education.
Can you repeat that?
Of a member of the Board of
a
Education.
member of the Board of Education,
Locust Valley Central School District.
Locust Valley Central School District,
Town of Oyster Bay.
Town of Oyster Bay,
Nassau County, New York,
Nassau County, New York,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you and congratulations. Lauren Themis, our new board member of the Locust Valley Central School District. Term of office, it is a 3-year term commencing July 1st, 2020, although Lauren did fulfill the end of a prior board member's term, which was from the day after the budget vote to June 30th, something like that. Okay, so raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a member of the Board of Education,
of a member of the Board of Education,
Locust Valley Central School District,
Locust Valley Central School District,
Town of Oyster Bay,
Town of Oyster Bay,
Nassau County, New York,
Nassau County, New York,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Welcome and congratulations. I will now call for nominations for the position of President of the Board of Education for the 2020-2021 school year. After the nominations, I will ask if there's any discussion. Are there any nominations for the position of President?
I'd like to nominate Brian Nolan, please.
Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, we'll go to a vote. Those in favor of Brian Nolan as President of the Board of Education, please say aye or raise your hand. Well, okay, Lauren, Joe, your vote? Okay.
You
Sean?
guys can hear me okay?
Yes, we got you. Sean, yes. Brian? John? Del Tato, yes. And Margaret? On the basis of the votes cast, I declare Brian T. Nolan the President of the Board of Education for the 2020-2021 school year. Brian, please come to the center. Oh, no, don't come to the center of the room. Stay right there. And raise your right hand, and I will give you your vote. So for the position of President of the Board of Education of the Locust Valley Central School District, the term of office is a 1-year term commencing July 1st, 2020. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of President of the Board of Education,
of President of the Board of Education,
Locust Valley Central School District,
Locust Valley Central School District,
Town of Oyster Bay,
Town of Oyster Bay,
Nassau County, New York,
Nassau County, New York,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Brian. I'm going to give you these oaths to sign. One moment. I will now turn the meeting over to Mr. Nolan, the new president of the Board of Education.
Thank you very much, Susan. Thank you to my colleagues on the board for their support. I look forward to serving in the coming school year. At this time, we will move for nominations for the position of Vice President of the Board of Education for the 2020-2021 school year. After each nomination, I will ask if there are any discussion. Are there any nominations for the position of Vice President? Trustee Themis?
I'd like to nominate Margaret Marshall.
Nomination for Margaret Marchand to serve as Vice President during the ensuing year. Are there any other nominations? So that there are no other nominations, we will now call for a vote. So for the ensuing school year, those voting in favor of Margaret Marchand, please raise their hands. Also, Trustee Zito?
Yes.
Okay, the ayes have it. On the basis of the votes cast, I declare Margaret Marchand the Vice President of the Board of Education for the 2020-2021 school year. Trustee Marchand, please come to the center of the room. Stay there. You can stay right there. Please raise your right hand. For the one-year term of office commencing July 1st, 2020, please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Vice President of the Board of Education,
of Vice President of the Board of Education,
Locust Valley Central School District,
Locust Valley Central School District,
Town of Oyster Bay,
Town of Oyster Bay,
Nassau County, New York,
Nassau County, New York,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. The Vice President, Margaret Marchand, will be authorized in the absence of the President of the Board of Education or his inability to act to assume all of the responsibilities and perform all the duties of the President of the Board of Education of the Locust Valley Central School District as are provided by law. Just before we go into the rest of the business, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the past President, Jennifer Maselli, for her service to the board. I can definitely attest to the incredible amount of time and dedication that it takes, and I want to thank her for her commitment and her service to the board. And I'd also like to recognize Dr. Tom Dolan, who served for us as superintendent, interim superintendent, and I also thank him for his service. At this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt all the resolutions under Agenda Item 3B, numbers 3 through 26, relating to the district appointments, and Item 3C, numbers 1 through 15, relating to the operational procedures. I need a motion. Vice President Marchand, a second. Trustee Steele, any questions? All in favor? Trustee Zito? Good.
Aye.
Oh, the ayes have it. Okay, at this time, we will now continue with the regular meeting. And I'd like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session to discuss a matter relating to the appointment of a prospective employee, also to discuss the stipulation settlement for 3 students. We have a motion to go into executive session. Vice President Marchand, second.
Second.
Trustee Zito, all in favor? So moved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very
much. Okay, we will now move into our next order of business, which will be public comment. Public comment, we have 4 individuals. I will ask that you stand where your seat is and speak clearly from there. We're also going to be limiting public comment to 3 minutes. The district clerk will keep the time, and she will politely let us know when the 3 minutes are up. So we'll start with the first person, Jennifer Maselli.
Jennifer Maselli, 30 Private Road, Salem, New York. Serving on the Board of Education has allowed me to make a positive difference in the community. I've approached the position with an open heart and without a personal agenda. I'm proud of what the board accomplished under my leadership as president, settling a separation agreement with the former superintendent, hiring an interim superintendent, settling collective bargaining agreements with all of our units, winning a 30-28 proceeding, concluding a 10-year legal dispute with a former employee and the LBSEA, navigating unprecedented learning challenges during this ongoing pandemic, and hiring our new superintendent, Dr. Ken Graham. In addition, we brought on a new director of special education, approving his employment last week, advocated for new counselors, hired new teachers and employees, saved over $1.5 million in the budget without impacting services, and passed a budget in uncertain times. As a trustee the previous year, I traveled to Rochester to advocate for 2 resolutions at the NISBA convention to better our students in an age of social media and won their passage. As a board, we supported the creation and implementation of new hiring practices, hired a new architecture firm and director of facilities, and supported new professional development training to support our staff. I'm also particularly proud of the district's movement towards more diversified settings to meet the needs of all students, including the addition of co-taught classes. I have always gone where I feel I am most needed, and I have always given 110% to everything I do. My family is forever at the forefront of my responsibility. Next year is a year of transition for us. I will have a senior and a junior in high school, and a middle schooler preparing for her transition to high school. I am also pursuing several new professional opportunities. Serving as an advocate for our students has been and continues to be one of the proudest accomplishments of my life, whether it was through almost 11 years as a SEPTA leader who fought for countless children at their meetings, as a committee chair on multiple parent councils, a parent representative on hiring committees, or as a board trustee. My only objective has been to create an environment in which our children can thrive and grow. At this time, however, I feel I have accomplished all I can as a Board of Education trustee. I have resigned, effective today, July 14th, 2020. That does not mean I will stop advocating for our youth. Creating a safe, welcoming environment for all students is a core belief I hold dear. I will continue to advocate for inclusion and diversity in our district. I would like to see implicit bias training for our students and staff. I support the implementation of restorative justice practices as well. It is important students learn to speak to one another about their differences of opinion in respectful and proactive ways. They need to understand how their actions and words affect the people around them so that they can work towards becoming more empathetic and compassionate young adults. The district has the opportunity to be instrumental in this growth. With the addition of a new special education director, I intend to help SEPTA once more so that the organization and our parents can form a positive working relationship with him. I want to thank the community for this opportunity to serve. We must place people in positions of leadership who are willing to learn their role and uphold their oath of office, one more sentence, without personal or political agendas, especially in this hyper-partisan era in which we live. Being on a school board is an apolitical endeavor where fiscal responsibility and the safety, well-being, and education of tomorrow's leaders takes precedence. Advocating for students within that framework is what makes a school board and its superintendent successful. I encourage the community to use their voices, speak up, stand up, get involved. You too can make a difference. I look forward to supporting Dr. Graham as a parent, a citizen, and an advocate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maselli. Next, we'll have Carrie Ann Karlstrom.
It's nice to have that mask off. So good evening and welcome, Dr. Graham, to Locust Valley. I come before you tonight as a former Vice President of the Board of Education, parent of 2 Locust Valley graduates, and a community member. Our teachers, administrators, Board of Education, and parents have worked hard to make our school a district a success. The academic accolades, awards in music, the arts, and most recently the Teacher of the Year Award in Social Studies going to Mrs. Riley are proof. With all the positive things we have going on in our district, there is always room to do better when it comes to fulfilling the mission of our district, to educate the whole child. Several years ago, there was a push for more programs addressing the mental health and wellness of our students. As a result, Locust Valley developed, piloted, and implemented ways to help our students recognize, reduce, and relieve their stress. In this time of unrest and uncertainty, these efforts must continue. In addition, I believe it's extremely important to teach our students how to communicate effectively. This involves learning how to actively listen, to reserve judgment, to respectfully disagree with another's point of view, to promote inclusion, not exclusion, and to address issues of bias, racism, and intolerance. A few years ago, the Board of Education, staff, and administrators were introduced to Ray Jorgensen. His program, Conversational Leadership, is spot on as to how to accomplish this task. I believe it's time to incorporate his training and methods into the classroom so that all students can learn the skills needed to effectively communicate. I'm certainly not suggesting that Ray come into the classroom of every student. Dr. Graham, I had the pleasure of listening to you speak at the 2018 NYSSBA convention in New York City about the program you implemented in Sachem, teaching and cultivating student leadership. In addition to my previous suggestion, I believe that implementing many of the components of that program will enhance the student experience in our school. Promoting leadership and effective communication skills should become a priority for the Board of Education in the coming school year. It is my hope that the Board of Education, administration, staff, students, and parents together create what I call harmony in the hallways and comfort in the classrooms, where no one feels excluded, but included and accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hallstrom. Next, we'll have Ava Lamb.
Good evening, I'm Ava Lamb, and I'm an incoming junior at Locust Valley High School. I'd like to thank the board for holding this open comment. First off, let's address the elephant in the room. The former vice president of the Parent Council tweeted, liked, and retweeted problematic content. These tweets consisted of discriminatory remarks towards those with special needs, the LGBTQIA+ community, the Black community, and an LV alumni. These comments are polarizing in an already divided time. The fact that she thought it was acceptable to post these horrific words is awful, but it is a disgrace that she has since refused to apologize for these villainous remarks. Furthermore, many members of the Parent Council stepped down from their positions as a sign of solidarity. Let's be frank. It is disgusting that the district allowed her to step down from her position instead of stripping her of her title. The district should have forced her out, but they allowed her to make her own decision to step down, thus allowing her and like-minded individuals in the community to believe that what she did was acceptable. Releasing a statement on the district's social media accounts claiming that the district doesn't condone behavior against the code of conduct is not enough. Actually, it just proves that the district doesn't care about its own code of conduct. Why else would they decide to not punish a member of the school's parent council for disobeying it? Administration forces each student to sign the code of conduct at the commencement of each school year. Students are held accountable when they disobey it, yet those with positions of power within the community aren't held to the same standard. Not to mention, the district disabled comments on their social media platforms in order to silence the outraged voices and maintain their unproblematic reputation. By attempting to sweep this matter under the rug, the district became complicit with the problematic content that the parent council member was promoting. The student body and recent alumni aren't going to allow the district to comply any longer. We are outraged by the district's reaction. We demand they make an attempt to redeem themselves by implementing policies that would prevent discrimination within our school. I've conversed with past and present students, and these are some ideas that we have. Every person involved with the school district must sign the code of conduct and be held accountable if they disobey it. A diversity committee should be put in place for students to join. Mandatory and reoccurring anti-discrimination training for every administrator, counselor, and educator should be implemented within the district. Long-term curricular of history and reality of racism, colonialism on Long Island, and the United States should be taught from an elementary school level. transparency and public access to institutional data on discipline rates of students with their race included from LBCSD, active recruitment of people of color in administrative positions on the parent council and as teachers and counselors, the commitment of a fixed minimum number of educators on anti-racism for school assemblies, someone who teaches Black and Hispanic anti-racism to be put on the board to ensure racist policies won't be implemented into our community, and a student representative to sit in on each and every board meeting in order to ensure that the policies being implemented are considerate of the beliefs of the student body. I would like to close this by asking, why do we tear other people down for being different instead of building them up? Why is it so bad for someone to have different colored skin, different learning patterns, or a different sexual orientation? In my kindergarten class, during our bullying education unit, my class learned about upstanders and bystanders. My peers and I were taught that bystanders were just as bad as the bully. This is because bystanders allow destructive behavior to ensue. However, we were all taught to be upstanders and stop injustices from occurring. I think at one point or another, everyone in this room has been a bystander. Although we may not be proud of this, I think it's a good learning opportunity. Making mistakes, although not ideal, are a part of the human experience. It is taking accountability and learning from your actions, which allows one to grow as a person. Even if we can't get the previous vice president of the parent council to apologize, I believe I have like 2 more sentences.
Okay.
I believe the situation can become a catalyst for everyone in our community to socially evolve. It's time to educate ourselves and start holding each other accountable. That's the only way we can grow and improve. The district must take part in improving themselves and taking accountability for their own doings. It is time for the district to practice what they preach, to stop being a complicit bystander and rather an upstander against the hate that goes on within the school community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb. We now have Josephine DeBono, 43 Cox Lane.
Good evening. My name is Josephine DeBono, and I am a rising junior at Locust Valley High School. This past school year, I undertook a project entitled Estudiantes para Estudiantes, a current subcommittee under the supervision of the Global Student Society that aims to aid in the assimilation and integration of new Hispanic immigrants to our schools, community, and country. In light of recent events, both within and outside the district's power to ameliorate, I would like to again bring attention to an already marginalized community and steps we as students request be taken to make Locust Valley High School a truly anti-racist and equitable environment for all. As the outbreak of COVID-19 forced schools to close indefinitely, subsequently switching to online remote learning, socioeconomic disparities between students in the halls of Locust Valley High School and K-12 public schools around the country have only become more apparent. For the majority of Locust Valley's affluent and privileged population, this quarantine has become somewhat of a chance to better themselves. Students have learned new crafts, taken enriching college-level courses, spent time with family, and furthered their passions with their newfound free time. For the not-so-affluent nor privileged population this school harbors, this pandemic has been neither a marker of creativity, productivity, or festivity. In addition to many students' socioeconomic status prior to this pandemic, more students are now at increased risk for food insecurity, housing instability, and virus exposure because of the unfortunate circumstances and situations through no fault of their own they find themselves in. I extend my gratitude to the teachers, counselors, and social workers who have worked tirelessly to ensure these students' well-being, even from behind a screen, by continuing to provide the top caliber education Locust Valley prides itself on. I thank the community who has aided in food distributions for students whose hot meal from the cafeteria might have been their only meal of the day, to the families who donated non-perishables to the town food drive, and to anyone who offered assistance to those more affected by this crisis than themselves in any way possible. But this is not enough. Acts of charity and consideration by those in power are a step towards change. But when many Hispanic immigrant students are thrust into a school, often after not having been in one for several years, and are expected to thrive, when they sprout up out of the ground in a world of unfamiliar languages and faces, when they walk through our doors for the first time carrying burdens no child should ever have to carry, and they are dismissed as a them instead of an us, the district must do more. But the plans, proposals, and programs to bridge this saddening divide I have outlined before the Locust Valley High School administration are counteracted once those office doors close and many administrators are complicit in permitting a pervasive culture of racism, xenophobia, homophobia, and hate that all of us have felt at some point but do not dare acknowledge. A few weeks ago, the co-vice president of Locust Valley's parent council was involved in a disgusting and immature altercation with an alumni on Twitter. Shortly after, her once under-the-radar social media presence was revealed. Her tweets and posts on politics and race resurfaced, and I can proudly say our student community banded together to denounce her tweets as what they were: grossly inappropriate, insensitive, and most of all, hateful and bigoted. She tweeted out that only some Black lives matter in response to a growing movement to protect Black trans women and men. She claimed that the LGBTQ+ community was pursuing some sort of agenda for being represented in kids' programming. She called other alumni cows. Most heinous of all, she insulted the special education community by calling Governor Cuomo #shortbus dumb. Well, my brother takes the short bus every day, and the fact that that is the individual entrusted to create the best possible experience for him within this district, I find truly rattling as his older sister. When these issues were addressed on her profile in a respectful and non-hostile manner, she chose to demean my entire generation, calling us ungrateful and not too bright. Not too bright for not wanting hate in a position of power. Aside from the co-vice president of the parent council's comments, another trustee of this very board I am standing before today has argued that the giving away of free education to illegal immigrants is a detriment to our country on Facebook. As if education is a prize we should dangle in front of dreamers who immigrated to this country as children under circumstances and by methods they had no say or influence over. Is this board member aware that Locust Valley High School has an attending population of dreamers, a community of dreamers I have had the honor of advocating for and getting to know as people? I have listened to their tear-inducing stories of hope, liberation, and freedom, what I consider to be true American values. Would this board member be debating their right to an equal education if they weren't brown? But as I said before, the culture both of these administrators exemplify only point to a larger culture that is heard in the hallways when some students use racial slurs, seen when other students demean other students who are part of the school's life skills program, and terrifyingly displayed when students make a day of patriotism about a political campaign, something directly against this school's code of conduct, by standing in the hallway with many Trump banners, flags, and merchandise as students who would be actively affected by his policies walk by, feeling again out of place in an institution that is supposed to stand by and protect them. Behaviors I am sure taught by the same parents and administrators we are all collectively appalled by. I am a strong defender of the right to a person's freedom of speech, expression, and political affiliation. She is exercising her First Amendment right, but someone whose beliefs cross into the territory of plain hate shouldn't expect to hold jurisdiction or position in an institution that is based on treating all equally. However, the true shame in this entire situation, from beginning to end, is its serious mishandling by those with the power to right it once brought to their attention. The behavior exhibited by the said co-vice president of the parent council should have called for her immediate termination as the holder of an elected position within our community. But instead, Locust Valley High School decided to issue a vague photo statement, citing their standing with civility, tolerance, and integrity, in line with their code of conduct, letting a week pass by before the court of public opinion pushed her into resigning. They then ultimately disabled comments across all social media platforms. When student voices needed to
Mr.
be heard...
Bono, I'm sorry, we just have to wrap up, okay?
Please, I worked so hard on this, please let me finish. When student voices needed to be heard the most, Locust Valley chose to silence them, district policy or not. So what do we want? We want transparency. We want to be able to openly comment, share, and discuss and debate our district's actions without restriction, especially in a time where our opinions cannot be as easily aired in public spaces, but rather through screens. We want accountability for those of all ages, positions, and powers, the same way us adolescents must face the consequences for our actions. Both in and outside this campus's physical boundaries, we believe the ones entrusted with our well-being should be held to the same standards of behavior. Perhaps I am too optimistic or naive, but I believe in the kindness, the generosity, and grace I have been treated with at Locust Valley, and that because most of those who I have encountered are good people, that exemplifying and upholding the majority of Falcon's values is a responsibility of our Board of Education. Most of all, whether the issue that arises is rooted in ableism, racism, homophobia, abuses of power, distribution of resources, etc., we want this administration to listen and change in tandem with the generation they are responsible for educating. After all, once we leave this school and start our life, it will be us shaping the world, carrying either the values or prejudices we were taught here into the public sphere, catching the fallout from some of your generation's shortcomings. It will eventually be us, the most informed, dynamic, and diverse generation yet, sitting in your seats. Thank you for all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bono.
So if anyone has a copy of their comments that they made tonight, they can leave them with me, or they can email their comments. I would appreciate it.
District clerk will enter that. Okay, we're going to move on now. We have more public comment.
I been to a board meeting before, and I just wanted to respond to what Ms. DeBono and Ms. Lamb said. Can I add something to that?
You have to sign in here.
Okay.
There is an opportunity at the end of the meeting. There's another clipboard up there. Is
Sign in,
it something
sign in
quick
and
that
do
you
it
want to
now.
add?
all the names.
Okay, so you can stand up, and we will need you to sign in so we have you as a matter of record.
Okay, my name is Christina Guerra, and I live, do I have to get my, I don't know how to.
Yes, your street.
Okay, Hillary Drive in Bayville. Also, I received something in my mailbox, and it was a Facebook post regarding the person that had made a Facebook about illegal aliens. That's the term that that person used. And also comparing Cuomo to Hitler. And I find that to be very, very offensive since my grandfather died in a concentration camp. And that person sits on the board today. And I don't know, I wasn't going to say anything, but since Mr. Bona brought that person up, then I feel that to compare Cuomo and what he's doing with the COVID virus to Hitler, who burned 9 million bodies, including my grandfather's, is atrocious, and it minimizes the death of those 9 million people. And that person should be held responsible for what they said, and a public apology should be said for all those that, I mean, who compares anyone to Hitler? It's just disgusting, and it's nauseating that this person still sits on the board. And that's all I have to say.
Just so everyone is aware, if you're first time at the board meeting, we have a clipboard. Please do sign up to speak. There's an opportunity at the beginning of the meeting, and also the board has an opportunity at the end. You can actually take it right to the district clerk. Just sits right up there. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on now to the reports to the board. We'll begin with the superintendent's report. We'll ask for Dr. Kenneth Graham, superintendent of schools.
Good evening. Push the mute button, push and hold the mute, push the mute button. The green light comes on. Hello? Is that on now? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. First, I wanted to just take a moment to thank Eva and Josephine. Clearly, the two of you took a great deal of time to put your thoughts together, and you were very well articulated in sharing those thoughts. I look forward certainly to speaking with the two of you and more of our student leaders as we get into the school year and as the school year progresses. I did have the opportunity to meet with student government leadership at one point already, and I think one of the things that people have heard me say in my short time here is that one of the things that drew me to the Locust Valley community was the opportunity to get to know our students, our staff, our families, our community members. So I look forward to learning more from each of you and from other students down the road. It is nice to see many of you face to face here this evening. It's hard to believe that I'm finishing up only my second week as superintendent here in Locust Valley. During the past 2 weeks, I've had the opportunity to spend time in buildings, meet with district staff, hire and interview for administrative positions, hire and interview for teaching positions. I've had the opportunity to meet with parents, including the parent group council, and as I mentioned before, student groups as well. I don't know if you had the chance to see the video that Pam Kaplan had created. It's up on our homepage at this point. It's really awkward watching yourself on video, but I think they were a nice window perhaps into who I am as an educator and as a person. It certainly was a privilege to be interviewed and get to know Michelle and Julia, both the valedictorian and salutatorian of the class of 2020. And I'd like to congratulate and thank Mr. DiClementi and his staff for the beautiful graduation ceremonies that honored the class of 2020 in as best a way as possible in this current reality. I have a daughter of my own who graduated high school, and I certainly was incredibly proud as a superintendent and watching from the parents' perspective for the students of Locust Valley High School at their graduation. So thank you, Mr. DiClementi, to you and your staff. I also want to congratulate and take a moment to congratulate Ms. Riley of the middle school, who was named the Long Island Council of the Social Studies Teacher of the Year. quite an accomplishment, and that accomplishment is highlighted and has been highlighted on our district homepage and our social media feeds, and I encourage you to get on those and visit them and check them out, because we're trying to constantly update the content and share all the things that are taking place throughout the school district with all of you. And I've had such a warm welcome here. I am truly excited to continue learning about the community and to communicate and get to know all of you. Now, with that being said, we have tremendous challenges ahead of us, right? There is currently a district committee that's dedicated to the planning for the reopening of school. This committee is made up of administrators, leadership from various departments, representatives from our nurses, teachers and staff, and parents. And I'd like to thank Mr. Davison and Ms. Maliambro for their work and efforts with this committee. The group started working together in early June to develop our plans for reopening, and they were focused on a couple of different areas. Those areas are facilities and transportation, mental health, health services and special services, athletics, extracurriculars and field trips, community assistance and access, and of course instruction. Each subcommittee identified areas to explore further, and they created executive summaries to facilitate our work moving forward. And just yesterday, I don't know if you heard, but the Board of Regents, the Governor, and the New York State Department of Health released a series of guidelines and documents to help districts as we plan for the reopening. We're currently in the process of reviewing these documents. They're voluminous. They're in my file here this evening. And we anticipate that more formal guidance will be released later this week to help districts as we plan. As a part of this work on reopening, we administered a parent and family survey. I think that just went live yesterday. And to date, we have over 700 responses. Overwhelmingly, the responses indicate that our community is likely to send their children to school while adhering to the CDC guidelines. And clearly our community wants to send our children back to school. Looking further at the data, we said only about 45% of the community are supportive of a solely distance learning model, and around 55% would be supportive of a hybrid model of remote and face-to-face learning for the fall. Should we return to distance learning anytime during the school year, most respondents indicated a need for more live or video teaching and a clear daily schedule for their students. About 75% of the respondents indicated that they're likely to allow their children to participate in extracurricular and interscholastic athletics should we return face-to-face, and roughly 50% of the respondents indicate that they would not utilize school buses next year. Now, some of the questions dealt with, would you allow your child to take the school bus to school or home from school? Overall, it was about 50% are indicating that they would not be comfortable utilizing the buses in the beginning. Lastly, approximately 1/3 of the respondents indicated that they have concerns about their children's social and emotional needs, a comment that I think we heard expressed here this evening. As a district, we're keenly aware of the need to attend to our students' SEL needs, and our schools and our staff will be responsive to those needs. At this point, we have a great deal of information to utilize as we work on reopening. Districts throughout the state must submit reopening plans by the end of the month, and we will learn more about whether or not schools will open face-to-face in early August. The next step for our committee is to continue to develop a plan that's responsive to the desires of the community, that adheres to guidelines and law, and that is safe for our students and staff. We anticipate providing additional updates to the community, not only at a board meeting like this, but we will do so through our social media feed and website as we learn more and have things solidified. And I hope all of you have as good a summer as possible, and keep your eyes open for those updates. That's all I have. Thank you, President Nolan.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. We'll now move on to the report of board committees. We'll begin with the audit committee. We're still continuing with the committee chair people until next month. So, Vice President Marchand, any report on audit?
We have not met.
Okay, we have not met yet. Budget and finance, Trustee Deltato?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into the facilities. That we do have a report. Just give me 1 second to bring it up. Okay. So under the facilities, the committee itself has not met. We did have a report from Mr. Nakatavicius, the Director of Facilities for the district, and the report is as follows. For Ann MacArthur Primary School, the floor replacement and water mitigation system installation is ongoing. It should be completed by July 24th. That is one of our capital projects. Over at Bayville Primary School, the installation of the new playground turf is complete. The playground is now ADA accessible. Refinishing and relining of the gym floor is underway, and that should also be completed by July 24th. Over at Bayville Intermediate School, the flooring asbestos abatement began on July the 13th. The job will include the following areas: the basement, first and second floor hallways, the main office and associated break-off rooms, the teacher's faculty lounge, and 10 classrooms. Also at Bayville Intermediate School, the new PA system installation has been completed. Rooms that were connected together have been rewired and separated to allow the new public address to have the ability to call those individual classrooms. Right here at the high school, middle school, we have a resurfacing and restriping of the track, which is complete. That also is a capital project. The work on the nurse's office and boys' locker room renovation has begun. That is also a capital project. And the ceiling refurbishment outside of the auditorium has been completed, including the installation of LED lighting in that area. And last but certainly not least, Locust Valley Intermediate School, the flooring asbestos abatement was completed on the first and second floor hallways, as well as in the cafeteria. New flooring will be installed starting on the 20th. New food serving line will be installed once the cafeteria flooring is complete. The installation of security screens for the basement windows began yesterday, July 13th. And the gutter lining project has begun. That is also a capital project. Susan, I will send that report to you. Just last, on the Facilities Committee, I did speak with Bob Brown this evening, and we're looking to set up a meeting with the board and Campbell Cassetta on August 18th, an opportunity for the new board members to meet, also the superintendent to meet Ralph and Bob from CCA. So that will happen on August 18th. With Policy Committee, does anyone have any report from Policy Committee? There being none. Professional development and board training. I know I spoke with the superintendent about possibly working with Dr. Ray Jorgensen again. We are looking to do a board retreat in August for an opportunity for the board to work together. So I think that's ongoing, correct, Dr. Brown?
Yes, that's correct.
Public Relations and Communications, Trustee Steele?
No report.
No report. Any other reports from the board of from the trustees for the board tonight?
I just want to thank Patrick, because Patrick and his team put together a graduation that I have not seen replicated yet. And it was intimate, it was live. Timmy, you were there. It was personal. You kept all of the dignity of graduation, the walking across the stage, the procession and everything. And even though we weren't all physically together, we were split four ways, I think that every single person came out of that day feeling, right, Timmy? Like feeling like something special just happened. And, you know, I got the vantage point from the stage, and I got the vantage point from sitting with my children. And I thank you and your team, and I know that the parent council presidents and myself worked tirelessly with you, but if it wasn't for you and your vision and your leadership, it wouldn't have happened. And I really am forever grateful to you.
Also, the rainbow at the end was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Very nice touch.
Thank you, really community effort, and there's a lot of time and work. The talent in the room was Tim singing, and
Yes.
everyone else put a lot of time in, especially yourself. Thank you to the entire community. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move now into unfinished business. We have nothing on the agenda. Anybody have anything for unfinished? New business? Anything for new business to be brought before the board tonight? Okay, we'll move now into the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or want to discuss anything in the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like to discuss C13.
Okay, C13.
I want to make the community, I'd like to make it in front of more people, partners we have here, I'd like to talk about.
John,
Can you use the microphone?
Yeah.
You have to turn it on. Just.
Hey guys, what
Hello?
would be, I didn't hear you guys well, what would be,
C13. C13.
okay.
Just waiting for the microphone.
Hello?
I don't think
I usually have a big mouth, but
press mute until it turns.
I pressed mute. Hello? Hello?
Okay, this is item C13, the award for RFP for
Hello.
transportation.
Thank you, Sean. I think the community as a whole should be aware of what is happening in Nassau County and all over the island. Stop, Susan. Every bus company on Long Island has held school districts with a gun to their head, wanting to get paid for non-services from March 20th through June in the tune of 48% of their bill, which in our district was about how much was it? About 150? 160,000 a month, almost $500,000. That's deplorable to me. We live in the town where the bus company is staged. They said they spent 48% of their money was there. They wanted to get paid 48% for not running one bus. Laying off workers, furloughing workers. It's deplorable. There was a bus company out east that let go 900 people. They didn't let go 900 people, they just busted the union. And they haven't been said, anything hasn't been said about that. They're still in business under a different name. So, we had to pay $500,000 to this company just to have buses for our children in September at another increase that they put over our head of 20% if we didn't pay them the 48%. How would that stand in your budget at your house? To me, it's abominable. I'm gonna try to spearhead legislation on this subject throughout the island, where these people just stole money from us.
I just want to, John, just because it's a contracted item, I just want to make sure with legal counsel that we're okay with.
I mean, the amounts are fine, you know, just in terms of stealing, it's a
Okay, I'll clean it up.
agreed
Thank you.
upon, it's agreed upon amount.
Okay, agreed upon amounts. It's just appalling to me. So I'll leave it at that before I get in more trouble. But to pay people to pay contractors for not working, that's not the way I was brought up. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Trustee Deltato. Any other discussion on the consent?
Can I backpedal off of that?
Sure, Trustee Zito.
So I completely agree with John. I think the community needs to know that we basically had a gun held to our head. We were also the last district to hold out, so that should tell you guys something on how hard we wanted to continue with this. And really, what made us move towards, I guess, settling it with them is that we need buses for our children in August. So that's the main reason why we settled. But I want to speak to John, or with John, and support him and say that we do plan on fighting this as much as we can, because what they did to us is not cool, in my opinion. That's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other discussion, we'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. With the amendments, I am so sorry, that's right. With the amendments in our packet, correct. We have a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Zito, second. Vice President Marchand, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Are you voting, John? Are you abstaining?
Yes.
Okay, so So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Joe, are you in favor?
Yes, sir.
That's 5. Against? Abstentions? 1 abstention. 501. You guys have it. Consent agenda passes.
Mr. Nolan, can I just interject? I apologize, first meeting here, right? But this would normally be for me a time where if there were individuals here who were appointed on the personnel action report, to just recognize those individuals. And tonight we appointed, the board just took action to appoint the new principal of Ann MacArthur Primary School. Last week we did conclude the hiring process for AMP for the principalship. There were a total of 80 applicants for this position. 9 of those applicants were invited in for a screening interview with myself, Ms. Meliambro, and Mr. Davison. From that screening candidate pool, we moved candidates forward to a committee of teachers, parents, and administrators. And throughout the entire process, Mr. Simon was someone who everybody said, this is our man. The committee then recommended candidates forward to us, and we made them go through even another process similar to a teacher going for a position who would do a demonstration lesson. The candidates had to prepare a presentation to us, to Mr. Davison, Ms. Meliambro, myself, regarding the first day faculty meeting and how they would pursue that in both a face-to-face model and an online model. And again, Mr. Simon was someone who consistently said to the committee, to the group here, this is the right fit for Ann MacArthur, this is the right fit for Locust Valley. So welcome, Mr. Simon, and congratulations.
Thank you. I also want to welcome Mr. Kurt Simon, the new principal at Locust Valley Elementary School. Welcome. I also, just two last things, I want to just issue thank you to Patrick DiClemente and his team. Margaret really summed it up beautifully. But those plans were specific, the event was well planned, and I'm sure the students and their families were very proud to be graduates of the Locust Valley High School class of 2020. So thank you for all of your efforts and your team for making that a really great day. And lastly, I'd be remiss, I just want to mention and thank Sean Steele for his year of service as the Vice President of the Board of Education. We appreciate your work as well. We have no additional public comment.
Well, actually, Brian, can I just say one thing?
Sure.
Just 2 things. One, I would appreciate it if the agendas and all of the paperwork involved could be put online for people in the district. And secondly, regarding facilities and all the projects that you mentioned, I think it's fantastic all those things are getting done. The general public doesn't really know that unless they watch the video. So I know it's more work for Pam and your staff and for Sean, but perhaps a section like a lot of other districts have of updates on buildings and grounds and facilities and all the projects that are going so people can see, especially with COVID, like no one would know because no one was here and with the summer. So I just think it's another transparent, hate that word, but that's what everyone likes, way to keep the community informed of exactly how the tax dollars that they voted on last year, 1920, are now being spent, okay? And the projects that you're doing and all that. I think it would really be helpful for people to know. It's like kind of a feel-good thing.
Point taken. Thank you so much, Ms.
All right, I appreciate that.
Our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, August 18th, 6 p.m. right here at Locust Valley Middle School High School. If there's no other business to be brought before the board, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Trustee Venus? Oh, okay. Trustee Zito?
I just want to, thank everybody. This is my first year on board, first time I've ever done something like this. I also want to thank Jen and Sean for making it a very educational year. I think they did a wonderful job, especially with the unprecedented times that we had. And I want to really thank everybody for picking up my slack, because I haven't been going around as much as I would have liked to for obvious reasons. But it really means a lot to me, my family, and my sense of community in Locust Valley. They picked up the slack for me, and I really want to thank you for everything, Jen and Sean especially. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Zito. We have a motion by Trustee Venus for adjournment. Do we have a second? Trustee Del Tado, all in favor? Joe? Joe? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Get home safely.